teenage starship captain must choose his loyalties carefully when a mission to recover a missing spacecraft reveals dark secrets in Avalon. That's the book we're reviewing on this episode of SFF180. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining me once again, and tonight I have a very special guest with me. Nicole Poweleit is with me. Her channel is Nicole's Adventures in Science Fiction. I'm going to link it right down there. So everybody go and check out her videos as well. You're getting your PhD right now, right, Nicole?
Yes, in microbiology.
Okay, so you come at science fiction from like actual scientific training background.
Some of it, yeah, somewhat.
Sort of, right? Well, all right, then let's talk a little bit about Avalon here. Now, this is a young adult space opera, right? So what is that? What's it all about?
Right. So there is a group of space bandits who are all teenagers, because that's why, of course, and they get sent on this mission to recover a spaceship from this area of space that's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. And as they're going there, you know, madness ensues and betrayal and all sorts of different things happen, and it's kind of a fun story in that way.
You know, it's one of these where it puts teenagers in a situation where teenagers would not ordinarily be, simply to kind of appeal to that audience. And
yeah.
I liked a few things about this story, particularly in that, although on the one hand it seemed like Mindee Arnett really doesn't have much of a background in space opera beyond maybe Star Trek, Star Wars, maybe some Firefly.
Yeah.
It's, you know, that kind of thing. Because you can tell, you know, that adults who are going to read space opera, they're used to much more sophisticated ideas now. We've seen all of the standard tropes. And so if you're reading Alistair Reynolds, and if you're reading Lois Bujold or Peter F. Hamilton or something, I don't think a book like this is going to have the crossover appeal to adult readers the way that a lot of other really popular young adult books have had. But I think that, you know, Mindee Arnett doesn't really seem to care about that much. She wants to write something that is going to appeal to a particular age group. And I think the story has a lot of confidence in the way she writes it. But one problem that I had right at the beginning, I thought, was that you have Jethro, who is main character, this boy. He's got his little sister Lizzie, who's this kind of brainiac kid, you know, but she also likes kittens, so that makes her cute. And then there's the girl he kind of has a on again, you know, attraction to. So they all don't quite seem like convincing street thieves to me. They don't quite seem like a gang of thieving kids, right? You were taken off the streets and you sort of lived a rough life. They're all kind of clean cut and nice, right? And
yes,
and I didn't.
They're not exactly child warriors or anything. They are rather nice kind of kids.
Yeah.
Not super like intense.
Yeah, because I was comparing this to something like the Gentleman Bastards novels from Scott Lynch, it's Liza Locke-Lamora, and all of the chapters in those books where he talks about Locke's youth in the Gentleman Bastards as a little kid being brought up on the streets and being a thief and learning that life, and it's pretty believable. And I would have thought that Jeff would have had, especially as a 17-year-old boy, he would have had a lot more swagger. He should have been a lot more cocky. And instead, he's just kind of a sweet boy, you know, bring him home, meet mom, have dinner, you know, just kind of.
I definitely felt like it was a little bit referential, specifically to Firefly. I know it says that in the description for the book, but there were definitely a couple of chapters that felt like they were very similar to some Firefly episodes to me, which I guess to some people might be a bonus that it's referential to a show they really like, but it was pretty referential at times, I felt.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's okay to drop hints of that sort of thing, you know, as long as you're not really obvious about it. You know, it's nice to remind your readers of something without having them say, well, I guess you've just watched a lot of Firefly.
Yeah.
So
I did feel like it was different enough from Firefly to be original, but it was very referential in some ways, and I think that's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're reading a book.
Now, I did think that as it went along, the story got better. I mean, I thought the second half of the novel was a lot stronger than the first half.
Right. Also, the action was a lot better in the second half of the novel, or things were moving a lot more in the second half of the novel than they were in the first half. The first half felt like quite a bit of setup, and it took a little while to get moving, I guess.
Yeah, it did. It was, I think, lacking in conflict for much of its first half because she was setting a great deal up. And again, I think that she was putting a bit too much energy into making us like her characters a whole lot. A case in point, for example, Hammer, this horrible crime lord that he's working for. They first, you first learn about him because they talk about him, and he's this terrible guy, and if you cross him, he'll, I don't know, erase your brain and make you an outcast. And there's this long sequence. They go on and on and on about this homeless guy that Jethro encounters. And so they really try to rub it in what a bad dude he is. And then you finally meet Hammer for the first time. And it doesn't seem like, Jethro was able to just sort of, cop a little bit of an attitude, not too much, and get what he wants. And like, well, he doesn't seem like he's this really bad villain. But then the second time you see Hammer, suddenly he's ramped it up and he's really villainous again. So there was a little inconsistency there for me, but what it meant, though, was that finally, in the second half of the book, I thought bad guys started acting like bad guys. Suspense really kind of started happening. She started, I think, warming up to her story and feeling a little bit more comfortable with it.
I didn't actually have that strong of feelings about this book. I thought it was kind of a fun story, and it was entertaining, but it wasn't necessarily mind-blowing, and there wasn't a lot of depth to it necessarily, but it was very entertaining. So, good for entertainment value, not necessarily a very high-minded space opera with lots of new ideas or anything like that. So, I thought it was a pretty middle-of-the-road book, personally.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think that it does its job confidently, but I don't think it does quite enough to stand out above the pack.
Yeah.
Certainly whatever books like Divergent, The Hunger Games, whatever sort of magic formula those have that are really hooking the young adult readers and becoming big mega hits, I don't see that this book has that.
Yeah, I think there was some opportunity to have a better story than what was presented, but
like anything else, this is probably going to be the first book of a series, so maybe
right.
Later on the stories will improve. They'll get a little bit edgier, a little bit tougher. But for now, it is what it is. So thanks much again for joining me. Again, please check out Nicole's channel. I will link that below. And thanks for joining me on this one, Nicole. We'll have to do this again, and
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll pick a spiffier book next time, hopefully.
All right.
You never know until you read them, right? So
yeah.
Otherwise. But it's been really great, and thanks again for joining me. And I will see you all again. And until I do, happy reading.